All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend, great holiday season. But let's get into this slate. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show where we do a quick walkthrough of the slate. Look at guys that we like, guys we want to dig a little bit deeper into, want to do more research on. And then later today on the pre-lock show at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we work on the implementation of how we're going to utilize the optimizer to take down some tournaments tonight, who we're going to have as leverage plays, guys we're going to reduce our exposure to, etc. To have access to that show, click on the link in the description. That's for VIP members only. Utilize the promo code BOB to save 10% if you want to do that. All right, guys, let's get to the important stuff on this slate. It's a pretty interesting one. You'll see, like, the earlier games I have some interest in, but the ones I'm really excited about is that last game on the slate, which has become a trend as of late, but it is what it is. Alex, man, good to see you. I hope you had a great Xmas too, man. Appreciate it. Like you said, right back at it today. It was nice though to have a little bit of a break. I didn't play football yesterday, so I did play some NBA, but that was what it was. All right, guys, let's look at the first game on the slate. We'll start off with the Nets against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think this game is honestly one that's just more fun to watch than to have DFS exposure to. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a really good defensive team. The Nets are an improved defensive team. You can take shots on your guys like Durant and Irving if you would like to. Joe Harris is out. And so that does create a little bit of an interesting situation where I am slightly more interested in guys like Seth Curry, maybe Kyrie Irving. Just with Joe Harris out, there's a few less shots around. Exactly, JJ. Good to see you, man. Should be a battle. I think it's going to be a fun game, but one that I'm not going to have a ton of DFS exposure to. Evan Mobley has been fantastic this season. Jared Allen, slight revenge game narrative here as well. I think they're more viable than the Nets guys for me. Like the Nets guys, just to rehash, like with Joe Harris being out, like I do think like the role players are more viable than they were previously, but I'm actually semi interested in playing some of these like Jared Allen's and Evan Mobley's. I'm less interested in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Just don't love the spot for them as much. But again, these guys are all one-offs. I'm not going to have multiple Nets or multiple Cleveland Cavaliers in my lines today, unless something crazy happens, which it could. But at least as of right now, not going to be the case. All right. Next up, we have the Clippers against the Pistons. This game is more interesting. We have Kawhi Leonard out. John Wall appeared to be pretty healthy on the injury report, so he wasn't on there. Kawhi Leonard, when he's out, Paul George sees the largest increase in usage. And he's only 9K right now, so he's a steal. Paul George, I'm assuming, is going to be relatively popular today. So if he stays around like this 20% or higher number, then I'll try to match the field on him because I do really like this spot against a really bad Pistons team. But if he can get close to that 15% range, he's looking like a borderline leverage play. So I'm excited about it. I like this spot for him. He makes a ton of sense. On the Pistons side of things, Isaiah Livers is still out. Kate Cunningham is still out. This team is pretty bad. They don't score a ton of points, really. You can always take your shots on guys like Bogdanovich, Killian Hayes, Duran, Ivy. Those guys are always the GPP guys that we should keep on our radar and not forget about. But the Clippers are a team I don't like to pick on a ton. They're solid defensively, nothing special, but still a team I don't like to pick on. So I don't foresee myself having a ton of forced exposure to the Pistons, but the domination station throws them in a few lines. I'm okay with that. Outside of Paul George with Kawhi Leonard out, John Wall is the next guy who has the highest usage rate, 29%, and to be more specific. John Wall's interesting here. I hate that he's still splitting minutes with Reggie Jackson, so that's what makes him not like a core play like he would be, but he's slightly more interesting than he was previously with Kawhi playing. Outside of that, I'm not super excited about a lot of these guys. I mean, there's the lineup fillers of guys like Marcus Morris and Batum. It's possible Batum can take on a larger role in a spot like this as well with Kawhi out, but he's still a relatively low usage rate guy and not a play that I'm trying to force. So Probably spent more time on that game than I should have, but it is what it is. All right, guys, moving on, we have the Timberwolves against the Miami Heat. And per usual, this is a shit show. Like the Miami Heat, their injury report is a super long, and the Timberwolves are a team that we can look to attack. So let me take a sip of water first. Okay. Now we'll get into the Heat list. Jimmy Butler, questionable. Bam Adebayo, questionable. Caleb Martin, probable. Gabe Vincent, questionable. Dwayne Dedmon, out. Haslam, questionable. Yurt7 has been out for a while. So I think the biggest thing here, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, we pretty much know how to handle this situation at this point. Bam Adebayo's out, then Robinson, Orlando Robinson, and Nikola Jovic will see an increase in minutes. So they become more viable than they would have been previously. Even like Highsmith would be a guy that we can consider. If Butler's out again, guys like Hero and Lowry would be in better spots as well. So per usual, the Heat, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens when their injury news comes out and just kind of adapt to that. Thankfully that the game is 30 minutes after lock, so hopefully we'll get that before lock. Fingers crossed. On the Timberwolves side of things, we have Kyle Anderson questionable. Jordan McLaughlin is out. Cat is out. Torrin Prince is out. So some things that could make the Timberwolves slightly more interesting. We have seen Naz Reid see slightly more minutes. He even played a little bit with Rudy Gobert. So again, not a play that I'm excited about, but if Kyle Anderson ends up being out, I understand the play slightly more. And so yeah, I think that's how I'm treating this game. Pretty much kind of a wait and see approach. Anthony Edwards has some interesting upside here. I mean, I say that every slate, and it's true. He's always kind of like another guy we're going to talk about in the last game. I feel like he always goes slightly overlooked at 11% ownership, and it's due to his price tag, and the matchup is not fantastic. But if this game stays close, I think he'll be a big part of it. Rudy Gobert is priced well, so he's a viable center on this slate. If Bam plays, I'm less interested in it. If Bam is out, I'm more interested in it. Just my philosophy. I don't have a fantastic reason for it besides easier matchup. Next up, we have the Rockets against the Chicago Bulls. The Rockets have Eric Gordon, questionable. Jayshawn Tate is out. The Bulls have some interesting news here. Caruso's out. Javonte Green is doubtful. Derrick Jones Jr. is doubtful. And then Ball's been out for a while. Those aren't like super big names, but those are guys who see a decent amount of minutes who could be out. And they're doubtful, so they'll probably be out. So there's a chance here that the Bulls coach might decide on Friday. He used the 8-man rotation. And so when he did that, Andre Drummond and Vucevic played together for a little bit, which is something that we don't see very often. The Twin Towers approach, very rare. But it's possible he might decide to do that again, assuming with Green being out and Derrick Jones being out. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of these Bulls players pop, because if they utilize that 8-minute, like the 8-man rotation, a lot of these guys are going to see an increase in minutes, and they're way more valuable at their super cheap price tag. Goran Dragic, if he gets the 19, 20 minutes, that's fantastic for him. Similar story of Andre Drummond. These guys are relatively decent point per minute players, and if they can see like the upper teens, really, I would feel more comfortable if they can get into like the lower 20s. We could be in a good spot. So since this is kind of like a coaching decision, that's why like these guys aren't going to be like 50, 60% owned. But assuming he does the same thing again against a really bad Rockets team, this is a solid spot. Like you're even going to see a lot of Patrick Williams on this slate. AO. I really do like the spot for these guys. I think Vucevic, of course, is the guy that we're going to highlight the most because the Rockets are absolutely awful. And then also Vucevic is the cheapest out of the three. And so that's why he's going to pop a little bit too. But I'll have a lot of exposure to these guys. I don't think it's a sneaky spot, but it's a good spot for me. JJ said, but second team needs Wall. Exactly. Yeah, no, I think Wall's a solid play. I think his high usage rate with Kawhi being out is what makes him a viable play. The only concern I have, and the reason why I'm not excited to play Wall, is because he's still splitting minutes. So with plays like that, he has to be extremely efficient to do well. He's still viable. He's still going to be my player pool because he is. because he can be that efficient. It's just he would be more of a lock-in play if Reggie Jackson wasn't playing, which that would make this slate so much more fun. If Reggie Jackson was out, life would be too good, too good. It's like Giannis said in the video I saw yesterday. He's like, you can't have everything. He's like, I can't shoot all the threes all day because then I would just be too gifted. And he's right. He's so right. He was kidding, though. He was kidding. But his three, he had some nice 3-shot points yesterday. 3-point shots yesterday. All right. Next up, we have the Pacers against the Pelicans. We have Nesmith questionable, Jalen Smith questionable, Daniel Tease is out. He's been out for a while. Zion Williamson appears to be healthy. He was not on the injury report. That's big because he's been out for a while, and that's why I've been loading up on CJ McCollum. Larry Nance Jr. is questionable. That's big because we've seen Joe Val have some ceiling performances in these spots where Larry Nance Jr. doesn't play. Of course, we've seen him be volatile as well. It's the risk we have to take every time we play Joe Val. I really hope he gets traded here soon so we don't have to worry about that crap anymore. Next up, we have Brandon Ingram. He's been out for a while, so nothing crazy. Alex, are you serious? Zion is now doubtful? Dang. Bam's out. Okay, that's nice. At least I'm glad we got that news early. Thanks for letting me know, man. Okay, so Zion being doubtful really switches things up on the slate. Gotta love the NBA, man. You just gotta love it. And JJ, you're right. Again, like JJ, I think you had a smart call like this last week. Like before you even got to it, like you're automatically thinking about the other side of it, which is incredible. It's a great way of thinking about DFS because that's one of the plays that gets overlooked. Like typically we overreact to the news of like, oh, so and so's out. Let's play his backup, and everyone plays them. That's usually a sharp play, so it's not bad. But what people don't respond enough to is the easier matchup on the other side. And you're right. Now, with Zion being out, Turner still has a tough matchup against Joe Val. So like that's not easy, but not having to deal with Zion is gonna help a lot. And also it makes Turner a little bit of a safer play because less likely Turner gets into foul trouble now. I know. Sometimes you have to get 2 to 3 of those sneaky plays right. Thomas said, "What's up, man? Good to see you, Thomas. Good to see you." But yeah, if Zion's doubtful, then CJ McCollum becomes close to a lock-in play for me. I'll have a ton. I'm gonna trust the DS. Usually, it likes him a ton anyway, so probably be in like the 80% range more than likely. That's so interesting. And of course, like Trey Murphy, I've been on the Trey Murphy train for so freaking long at this point. I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but going right back to Trey Murphy because he's only 5K, and with Zion out, he just makes a ton of sense. So I'll be way over the field. I know he won't be 3% owned if Zion's actually out, but wherever he ends up, that's where I'll be. On the Pacers side of things, I think Tyrese Halliburton's interesting here. He's been in solid form as of late, so I think he's viable. He also had a decent game against the Miami Heat, which I didn't really see coming, so there's that too. Outside of that, like for me, it's Tyrese Halliburton and then CJ McCollum, assuming Zion's out, and then my like next tier would be your guys like Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. Outside of that, the rest of these guys are mostly lineup fillers outside of the Trey Murphy guy, who I just absolutely love playing. Alex said Herb Jones out too. This is going to be a fun slate, guys. It's like a nice 7-game. If this was like a 12 or 13 game slate, I'd be like, oh, this is annoying. But with a nice like 7-game slate, I love this injury news. Like just give me more. Just give me more. Thomas said no more Joe Val. LOL. Man, you know we have to go back to it. We're gonna have to go back to it today. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Hopefully the DS gives us enough in like the initial run where we don't feel like we have to get leverage and I can just ignore it enough where I don't feel like I have to do it. But there's a chance, man. There's a chance. Because everyone's saying that. So like when everyone's saying it, I have to be like, okay, I'm willing to get hurt again. Willing to get hurt again. But we'll see. We'll see. Next up, we have the Utah Jazz against the San Antonio Spurs. Let's see. Any injury news from this game? We have Kelly O out. So that's semi-important kind of still. And then the Spurs, for once in what feels like forever, have no one on their injury report, which is interesting. I'm going to refresh to make sure I'm not missing anything again. But yeah, it looks like the Spurs are looking pretty healthy as of right now, which is a nice fresh breath of air because I feel like I've been playing them on every slate and it's getting really old. They're still viable. I mean, I think we can still have some exposure to them, but they're not going to be like a core play. And I'm going to try my best to not make them a leverage play because I'm just kind of over them. When it comes to the Utah Jazz, like I mentioned, Kelly O is out. That again, like makes a guy like Kessler more viable than he was previously. Again, he's 5,400. He plays like high 20-ish in the minutes department. So not an area we have to force, but a spot I like still. We are going to have a special guest on the pre-lock show today, the one and only Upper Slad. So I know he's kind of a Kessler guy, so it wouldn't shock me if he likes him a good bit. Yeah, JJ, exactly. Like I was all over that last game on this slate, but now with some of the injury news starting to come in, for me it's going to depend on the ownership. Like I'm not going to overthink it at this point, but if the last game is going overlooked now because everyone's going to focus on those other two games, then I like it just as much. But if other people aren't reacting to that news, then vice versa. So I'm just going to play the ownership game on it because I like all these spots and I'll have exposure to all of them. I'm just talking about which one I'm going to have leverage on. Kaboom! Good to see you, man. Just saw it earlier. Thanks, normal, but glad to see you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Today's a busy day, so I had to adjust the schedule a little bit. Any love for Sachan? Feel like I missed the train. Yeah, exactly. I missed the train. I've missed it twice now, I think. So personally, I can't jump on just kind of out of principle for myself at this point. They're also healthier now, so in theory, he shouldn't have these big games as often, but he's proven me wrong before. So he's one of those guys like I'm gonna try to trust the DS on. If the DS gives me some exposure to him, then that's fine. Because he's in a decent spot. The Jazz aren't great against like front court guys, so I'm fine with Sachan, but not a guy I'm trying to force. Alex said, Jesus, Dyson Daniels and Trey Murphy now questionable of illness. No, no. Trey Murphy, why are you doing this to me, man? If Trey Murphy's out and Herb Jones is out, I don't know what the Pelicans are going to do. And if Larry Nance Jr. ends up being out, then Joe Val becomes like almost a guaranteed must play. And whoever else they bring up on this team to play more minutes, like it's going to be wild. That starting lineup's going to be super important. Yeah, Pelicans value night for sure. That's freaking insane. I really just want Trey Murphy to play though. That sucks. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, I mean, there's some interesting pieces. I mean, I think Malik Beasley even has some upside here, viable. Uh, there's no one I'm super excited about. I mean, Jordan Clarkson's interesting against a really bad Spurs defense, but I don't love this spot. There's better spots available. So, you guys know I'm not a big Vanderbilt guy. Like, I don't try to like predict his game. So, he also has some decent upside here when I was looking at the sim model as well. So, some interesting pieces, but with some of the news breaking on this slate, is going to be wild. We're just going to have to take a wait and see approach for a lot of it. Just kind of see how the dust settles. Like I said, guys, this last game was the game that I was the most excited about on the slate. The Charlotte Hornets have Dennis Smith Jr. listed as questionable. Nick Richards is doubtful, which is nice because I never liked playing him. Cody Martin is out. For the Trailblazers, we have Yusuf Nurkic, probable. Josh Hart, probable. Justice Winslow is out. Nasir Little is out. Gary Payton's out. The thing I like the most about this last game is that the Hornets are such a bad team. The Hornets are so freaking bad. They play at such a fast pace that other teams score a ton of points. And in the same method, their defense is so bad that teams can score pretty much however the heck they want. We've done pretty well this year by just playing bigs against the Hornets. They're god awful against bigs. So Nurkic is in a freaking fantastic spot. Damian Lillard has a soft matchup against Ball and the rest of the Hornets. And so I love the spot for Lillard, especially if his ownership starts to fall back into the single digit range. You can pretty much lock him in as a leverage play for me. And then LaMelo Ball is just a guy that has high upside. If this game can stay close, he has a ton of ceiling here too. So I love this spot for the Trailblazers and the Hornets. I think a little bit of a sneaky play here is even Anthony Simons. He's no longer in that 8K, 7K range. He's 6,500, which is still expensive for him. I would love for him to be in that like 5,600 range with Josh Hart. But Simons has more upside. And so I think he's a little bit of a sneaky play here. I'm hoping with some of the injury news that's coming out, the ownership falls on these guys and I can get leverage by just having like 15% exposure to them. I would love that. Chris, yeah, ready to get hurt by Joe Val again. Yeah, you might as well go ahead and get all the bandages out, get the band-aids, because it's that time again, man. It's that time again. Tattooed Freak said, I'm late as usual, but wanted to pop in and say, let's fucking go. Thanks, Tattooed, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone, guys. Thank you for watching and joining us. Pretty much everything I have on this slate. Of course, I have a lot to dig into, especially with a lot of this injury news, to see if I can find any sneaky plays in there. But that's going to be saved for the pre-lock show and for the VIP members with DFS Army. So again, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good luck for those who aren't able to check out the pre-lock show later today, and I hope we have some takedowns. Have a good one, guys. Peace out.